Now that aside, that little annoyance aside, there is something really cool that I like. The last ability that Jiger possesses, she has a stinger in her tail, like I mentioned earlier. But being as, if anybody knows anything about insect anatomy, only females possess stingers. Not saying Jiger is an insect, but stingers are a modified female sex organ, an ovipositor, egg-laying device. So she stabs into Gamera's neck at that one point and lays an egg. So they do scans on Gamera while he's sick and knocked unconscious and probably dead. So they're like, oh, we'll X-ray him. It'll be cool. You know, let's waste hundreds of thousands of dollars while other places are getting blown up.
In order to determine whether Gamera was dead or alive, a complete examination was ordered. A special helicopter was immediately dispatched with the necessary equipment to take X-rays.
All patrol units report at once. You'll all change to emergency tactics 22. Latest intelligence indicates Monster X is moving in an uninhabited area in Osako, so be on guard at all times.
So they scan him, and they're like, well, we found this lump in his lung. And I was like, lung cancer! They're like, no, it's probably not cancer. I was like, double lung cancer! And they're like, no, it's not double lung cancer either. But it turns out, which this is cool, and this I think it's really neat, that Jiger laid an egg inside, it stabbed through his thing and laid it in his lung. Which is really cool for me, because where I work, in my line of work, we do a lot with parasites, you know, parasitoids, organisms that have been parasitized. It's a common in my job. You know, I experience it probably weekly, if not more than that. And it's really cool that they brought that up. It's a really neat premise, and I was like, yeah, when I read a review for this before I watched this movie, I was like, parasitoids and stuff. I was like, this is sweet. This would be awesome. This is a cool premise. They could run with this. This would be awesome. But they don't. It's like it was brought up like the last second. While it's cool that they go into depth and explain it a little bit, I really like that. And how they did it, I was just really let down that it didn't become what it probably could have been. It could have been like the coup de grace of the whole film. And it really kind of was. I don't think they exploited it enough. Maybe it's because of their audience, or maybe the writers didn't care to go into that much, like the depth. Maybe they're just like, well, maybe we'll put it in. It's cool on paper, but we're not really going to go into it because it takes a lot of time and so on and so forth. But yeah, in general, Jiger is awesome. I really like her. I think she's one of the most underrated, in my opinion. Really cool, nice array of abilities. Fights pretty good and so on. And it just, I think she's really underrated. Like, she's never brought up ever again. She's never been in another Gamera movie. I don't even think she's been in any graphic novels. I'm pretty sure Barugan has, but I'm not really going to go into that. Another thing I want to bring up is when Gamera fights Jiger at the very beginning of the film, first fight, she disposes of him really quick. Like, fully knowing. Like, she only sees him fly once, pulls legs and fly. Only sees it once. She's either really smart, which is a possibility. I don't know. Some signs later in the movie make me think otherwise. But she's either really smart, or because Gamera's been around since about 100 billion years, I'm sure she has been too, or at least a relative, then they've probably fought once before. This is kind of like a reaching out there nerd hypothesis kind of thing. But since Gamera's been around for about a bajillion years in these early films, in the storyline for these early films, I'm almost betting that Jiger, that they've met once before, or an organism similar. Because there's no way that I would think, because, that she would just know that she could just do this and he'd be disabled. And like knock him on his back and spear his arm, so he'll be down forever, or permanently. But, it was just really coincidental. I'm sure they didn't mean that when they wrote it, but that's just how it looked to me. Other people, that are fans of this sort of thing, look into it. I mean, you might want to look into it a little more. If not, I think I'm just thinking about it too much. But all in all, special effects are decent. They're average for these films. You've seen they're pretty much the same as been in the last 3 Gamera movies. They don't push the envelope. The suits are pretty much the same. Nothing really stretching the envelope. I guess they probably pretty much had a set budget. They had what worked, and they just decided to run with it. Like, fuck it, we won't change it. This stuff works. Whatever. We won't spend more money trying to develop something new or try something radical. Which isn't always a bad thing, but You know, when you do it for this many movies in a row, you really got to kind of push it sometimes.
He's a kid. Gamera did it.
I told you.
The idea worked.
Yeah.
But, you know, closing comments, I would say, if you haven't seen it, if you're a fan of these kind of movies and you haven't seen it, you really need to. You really need to. I mean, you really need to do yourself that kind of favor. If you're not a fan of the movie, these series, I like this one pretty good. It's not my favorite, but it's probably up there, if not my second favorite I've reviewed so far. I mean, it's not going to absorb you in. Like, if you're new to the series and you watch this, it's not going to sell you on the whole series. I wouldn't imagine. If it does, awesome. If not, it's probably not going to do it. So, I'm going to say 3 out of 5, maybe week 3 for this. Now, Barugun's still probably the best out of the series we've reviewed so far. But, again, check this one out if you get the chance. You know, you find these things just about everywhere. They're pretty cheap. So, again, thanks everybody for, you know, all my viewers, subscribers, fans, whatnot. Thanks for, you know, keeping watching me, for even though I have delays every once in a while. And again, I'm sorry for that, but keep on watching, keep posting comments, let me know what you think, suggestions, all that sort of thing. And that's going to be it for this week's episode, or this new episode, and we will see you all later. Bye.